Hello, my noble band of outlaws. Outlaw Samurai coming at you live with a video. Well, found a new sword. Again. But this is no ordinary sword. This is my first sword from an anime. As many of you know, I am a major anime nerd. And because I'm a major anime nerd, I've always wanted a sword from an anime. So, I finally got one. Yes, I know. This is also the first time buying a sword that came with a presentation box. Sword stand. I'm not expecting much from this sword stand. Pretty much your basic sword stand. It's kind of nice that it's a two-sword mount. So there's that. Put that together later. Set the sword aside for the moment. When you get presentation boxes, they'll usually come in this gold-like coloring. Let me readjust the camera a little bit. They'll come in this gold-like coloring. Sometimes they'll have kanji written on them. Sometimes they'll come in this very fancy wrapping. This has just basic, I want to say, burlap wrapped around it. These are usually very cheap wood and very cheap overall, these presentation boxes. They come with stupidly simple little latch locks that this one didn't even come locked. So there's that. I'm not really a big fan of presentation boxes, mainly because whenever you buy a presentation box, you are more times than not paying the additional cost it takes to make the presentation box. And in any case, whenever you pay and buy a sword that comes with the presentation box, generally speaking, you're paying mostly for the presentation box and not so much for the sword. So a little bit of buyer beware when it comes to swords that come with presentation boxes, swords that come with free sword stands. That's another thing that's like a $5 little accessory that it's not going to cost the manufacturer much more to give you. But something like a presentation box, if you order a $200 sword, you're probably spending about $50 on the presentation box alone, and not so much on the sword. This was $120, which in the sword community we know that's pretty damn cheap. But still, because of that price range, I'm going to roughly say that the presentation box, just one moment. Sorry, I had to deal with something. But in any case, as I was trying to concisely say, with this sword, I'm willing to bet about $60 went into the presentation box, and whatever left over went into the sword. But without further ado, don'ts and probably shouldn't, let's see what sword I actually bought. You One Piece fans out there already know what this sword is. This is Enma from One Piece. I can feel it stealing my hockey! Kurata! You have to watch the video of Zoro when he first obtains Enma to get those references. Already I can feel that some of the pieces are loose. The tang has most likely been epoxied in place because I see no Makugi pins, but the thickness of the blade alone tells me that it does have an actual tang attached to it. Not very sharp. I mean, it'll do the job of cutting through water bottles and shit. But overall, not that bad. It's straight as far as I can tell, and accurate to the anime, except in the anime it's purple instead of black. Now, the anime this sword comes from is actually One Piece, and as any of you know or don't know, my favorite character is Enma Zoro. Zoro gets this sword in One Piece, and this sword is very important coming the final battle against the main villain of the current arc, which is Wano. But to give you a brief rundown of this sword, basically, this sword is a cursed sword in the world of One Piece. And what it does is, One Piece world uses a power called Haki, which translates from Japanese as willpower. So, basically, it's a manifestation of your will. In any case, Zoro, he specializes in a form of Haki called armament Haki. And what that is basically cladding your body in an invisible suit of armor. But in One Piece, Haki is depicted as blackish purple energy. So, what Enma does is, it actually sucks your Haki out of your body and cuts more than it's supposed to. In the scene where Zoro gets this sword, he's trying to cut a tree down, but ends up cutting the entire coastline of Wano. Now, with that being said, this is stupid light, by the way. Now, with that being said, after Zoro does this, his arm looks like a mummy that came out of an Egyptian tomb, because Enma's sucking out his Haki. Zoro says, bitch, give that back, and takes his Haki back. Everyone around him says that the only person ever to wield Enma and not die is Kozuki Oden. And I'm not going to get into that because I could make an entire 3-hour video just explaining the Wano Kuni arc, but I'm going to leave that up to One Piece reviewers such as Anime Uproar, Anime Balls Deep, and Tekken 101. But yeah, in the early, when we first got glimpses of this sword, everyone thought, because Zoro, he has 3 swords. He has a white sword, a red sword, and a black sword all the time. So immediately, when we first saw this, everyone immediately thought that Enma was going to be black, be his new black sword, because he got his other black sword stolen because it was a national treasure of the country they're in, and it's a whole thing with that. But in any case, Enma was given to him by Kozuki Oden's daughter, Shusui. Not Shusui. I spaced her name. But in any case, she gave Zoro this sword in replacement of Enma. I mean, in replacement of the other sword, Shusui, which means autumn leaf or autumn rain. But in any case, that's Enma's whole thing, where it basically, no one, and we get an explanation in One Piece where the cursed swords, basically not anyone can pick up a cursed sword in One Piece and use it. You basically have to be able to subjugate its will. all swords in One Piece have a will of their own, and a swordsman has to subjugate the sword's will to his own. Alright, that's where we get the famous speech from Zoro's sword masters. Some swordsmen in the world are capable of cutting nothing, while others are capable of cutting everything. That basically means that if a swordsman completely makes a sword submit to him, that means the swordsman can basically choose what he cuts. One instant he could cut a giant tree down, for instance, and the next he could just swing his sword against a few hanging down vines, and the sword's just going to knock the vines out of the way and not cut it. Because he wanted to cut the tree, but not cut the vines. So, yeah, there's a whole mythos behind that, but Enma is one of two swords. Abi no Abakiri being the other sword. It's a white sword that is going, I assume, make an appearance later on in the anime, but we're focusing on Enma, my new favorite sword from Zoro, knocking down Shusui. Now, as I'm trying to not get into a whole big One Piece spiel, but give you some background of the sword in the anime, that's basically why I bought this sword. It's my new favorite sword. I love the design. Not a big fan of the purple design, but the reason that I say black versus purple is because everyone, when we first saw these swords in the manga, everyone thought that this was going to, Enma was going to have a black design to it. Replacing Shusui as Zoro's black sword. But when we saw it in the anime, we found out that it actually has a purple design. I'm not a big fan of purple. I mean, to me, purple is just not a color that I would personally pick for a sword. Purple mixed with black, like purple highlights and black tones, that would be different. I feel like purple is one of those colors that needs to be offset by a darker color. Especially with the shade that Enma is drawn with. I would have loved to see, like, if Enma had like a black Edo wrap with like purple Samegawa ray skin underneath. That would have been fine with me. But an all purple sword just doesn't interest me. But this sword does. I love the black sword. As Matthew Jensen would say, black, black, blackity, black, black. I love black on black, Jack. And Enma hasn't really changed its design since its reveal, except the purple one has two little golden fittings here and right above where the Kasaki is. But yeah, I like this sword. I have my favorite sword from Zoro now. And who knows, I might actually commit to buying the other two swords in Zoro's current arsenal. I might just buy all of Zoro's swords. Like, just straight out collect all Zoro's swords from the beginning of the story onward, because Zoro's had 5 notable swords. The Wado Ichimonji, which he always carries from the beginning up till now. That's a whole spiel. Childhood friend died. Her father gave Zoro that sword. Pretty basic overview. Sundai Kitetsu, another cursed sword where Zoro threw it up in the air, held his arm out, let the sword spin downwards, and the sword basically, instead of chopping off Zoro's arm, basically forced itself to curve down and sink into the ground. So yeah, Zoro changed his fate there. And then we have Yubashiri, which he also got at the same time he got the Sundai Kitetsu. That sword later then broke. He replaced the Yabashiri with Shushuri, which is now returned to the citizens of Wano, as in the current story arc, and now he has Enma. So, Wadoichi Monji, Sandai Kitetsu, Yubashiri, Shushuri, and Enma. Those are Zoro's 5 most iconic swords. And personally speaking, I feel like if any of his... Now you're probably wondering why Zoro's had so many different swords. Zoro has a bad habit of breaking his swords in anime. Or having his swords broken. Or just having his swords stolen. I mean, we're talking about a guy who you could literally say, walk 5 feet in front of you, you'll get to your destination, and he'll take 100 feet in the opposite direction. Zoro has the sense of direction of a 1980s GPS. But I've rambled on enough. I bought this on Amazon for like 120 bucks. It's a functional blade. I don't buy wall hangers, people. Ooh. Gotta be careful, because I feel like this, I've just found a spot in the scabbard where this thing likes to bind and not go all the way into. But in any case, I don't buy wall hangers, people. I buy swords I can actually cut shit with. But in any case, I've rambled your ears off enough. This video is already longer than I wanted it to be. So until next time, my noble band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai, tells all y'all, be crazy rednecks, be safe in using your weapons, and if you want a full lowdown of Enma and its backstory and how Zoro got it, let me know in the comments, and I will do a video explaining everything I know about Enma and how Zoro got it in the comments down below. It might be a bit rambly, but just to let you know ahead of time. I'm out. Peace.